Yeah, I'm thinking I just go live, just like that. What could possibly go wrong, said the man, blissfully unaware that just about anything could go wrong at any given moment. I think I got this last time. Yeah, I figured, you know what, I might as well get started, get going, remember what it is like to speak to people again. Whoa, that's the wrong button. That's not shift I was pressing, that was control. You guys remember how it was last time when I spent like an hour on the... I spent an hour on sitting in one place. Okay, actually let me confirm we have audio before I fumble the bag really hard. What do I press? This. Okay. Alright. It sounds like we do, which is wonderful. Why am I hearing myself? It sounds like we do. Shut up. Sorry. I almost managed to be professional about it. Not quite. Let's solve the boulder problem. Okay, that's the boulder problem. This has killed me sometimes, which is kind of embarrassing to admit, but it has happened before. Just so you know, this unfortunate detail. Okay, I don't wanna have OBS open on the other monitor. I'd like to see the chat, just in case there's important information. Oh, right, let's open the map. I forgot everything ever. Sorry. That's why I need a little bit of warm up to really get my brain juices flowing and my gameplay going as well. Which is sometimes a problem considering this is, you know, a one live run, and then if I die, I die. But that's alright, because by now, I've learned enough about the beginning of the game. I can just play it on autopilot, so if I die, I just get to play the segment of the game I know pretty well. Gooding indeed. We are back on the Sigma male grind set, on my way to become the greatest streamer that ever was, of course, which is it's very important for me to devote as much time to my YouTube career, because it's a big prospect of mine. Oh, I'm gonna die. I didn't realize you just get a laser beam over there. That's alright. We'll head it from the beginning once again. I found a new YouTube setting, and the new YouTube setting I found how to disable the funny like crown and XP you get for typing messages, which is like, why would you do that? I mean, I know exactly why you would do that, why they did that, why they implemented it, but that doesn't stop me from hating it. So I found out you can just disable it. I'm one of the weird people that for some reason like looks at the settings of things I use. I know this is quite unusual and probably antisocial behavior to pay attention to the instruction manual or like the options button and just to see what options I actually have. This is certainly something users of applications I make do not do, but I do it. I miss my big fan crown. Well, I don't know how to enable it again. Unlucky. If that makes you feel any worse, I didn't even see that, because I have like I have a browser extension that modifies the YouTube chat. And I installed that because YouTube chat used to crash, and it also didn't default to live chat. So this extension I have supposedly, apparently solves both of these issues, because I've not had the chat break on me, and I've not forgot to be on live chat instead of top chat. I will now commit Sudoku. This is so sad. Chat, can we hit 7 women? One day I'm going to get in trouble for this joke, but today is not the day. Maybe. Who knows? Maybe like a speedy, I wish you a, like instead of a speedy recovery, I wish you a speedy downfall. I just really hope somebody goes after you, that type of stuff. It's sad. You gotta hit the... What's the funny TikTok feature where people like react and do things for if you send them money and like strawberry emoji? I don't quite... you have to forgive me for not being familiar with the TikTok lore. I'm not up to date with the youngins these days. They do different things on the different vertical video platforms, and I'm still... I'm an old grandpa stuck in the time of the internet where we told everybody to film horizontally for video quality. But I think by now that is just completely gone. We've given up as a civilization. We'll never see horizontal videos again. It's all about the vertical, because rotating your phone is too much effort. I would rather rotate my computer, like everybody... The solution to this problem is everybody just rotates the computer monitors vertically, and then we can all enjoy vertical video in peace. With no negative externalities whatsoever. Get rotated. It just reminds me of, there's like a gif of a diver and a shark, and the diver just gets the... literally rotates the shark, and it's like, get rotated, idiot. That's what that reminds me of. I don't know, maybe one day I will master the technique of shark rotation, and I will be a menace on the seafloor. Or wherever sharks live. I don't know, maybe they only live in the ocean. I could be wrong. This is fact check question mark. Not fact checked yet. This stream might contain misinformation. It may or may not be on purpose. I will not tell you. Actually, it is on purpose the whole time. Don't tell anybody that I said that. They'll fire me from my job at the YouTube View Factory. Okay. I actually figured out, because I was thinking, I could say things, but what things would I say? And during that thought process, I've decided to come to the brand new and never before heard conclusion that people are too emotional for my liking. And so, as if I've never talked about something like this before, I am going to run over several people in my car, but also run over this topic again. So, I titled the stream Blissfully Sentimental, because I think this is gonna come out edgy, so I'm going to have to add like 7,000 caveats to it, but in general I think sentimentality is very much a luxury kind of belief. As in, if you can get like very emotional and affected by things, and it gets to you and you get all sad and like and think about how people are gonna feel and how you feel, etc., that I think indicates that you have a fairly decent amount of time on your hands at the very least, and then also other resources. Like, you're not desperately clamoring for survival if you have time to dabble and delve into all sorts of feelings that you have, and also to do things directly because you feel they would be nice to do, or just because you felt like it. This doesn't apply to literally everything, because obviously there's like, obviously I'm not trying to trash literally every feeling ever and doing anything ever with regards to feelings, because that would be ridiculous. But I think, okay, maybe a better angle to tackle this from would be decision making, right? If you are making a decision, and you contemplate what the correct choice in a given situation is, then there's going to be a question of, well, but this makes me feel a certain way, or this is unpleasant, or this requires me to enter into conflict with this other person. This requires me to go against the commonly expressed beliefs of people. This makes me look bad. All that jazz. This is like the primary sentimental I'm trying to hit at. Don't sorts out with arguments with his sister on stream. Dude, I wish I could have these arguments. Instead, we are having different arguments. We are not getting to this level of autism in real conversations. That would be too exciting. That would be... Okay, don't over autism the joke. It was a joke. I'm stopping myself. I'm pulling the handbrake as we speak. Oh no, I've lost my train of thought. Anyway, sentimentality. So you can afford a certain degree of, like, what does this make me what does this make me look like? Does this make me look good or bad? And then consider that. It's like, if you can make these kinds of considerations, then you effectively pay for that. It's comfort that you can pay for. Like, you spend additional time and or resources, and then you in return you get the additional comfort of, well, this decision makes me feel good, or like this is not icky to do. Just, there's also a component to this that is certainly perfectly fine, and also because conscience is, I think, somewhere, I would distinguish it from a feeling, but on like a practical level, I don't know how much distinction you can, and how certain you can be of a distinction between conscience and a feeling. Because ultimately, like, you feel a certain way about something you or someone else is doing. That's the feedback you get from your conscience. And then, well, I believe it is possible to learn, like, okay, this is, and train it as well to provide you better feedback. So it's not that you should never listen to any feelings or whatever. It's sometimes things need to get done. Okay, sometimes things need to get done, and when things need to get done, how getting things done makes you look is a, like, way later down the line concern. Is maybe yet another way to try and phrase what I mean. Hello, welcome to rambling while playing a video game. Enjoy your stay. Oh no, I made a prompt appear by toggling the UI. This is a disaster. Speedrun ruined. Minus 1000 social credit, etc. Okay. So, let's explode this wall as well. So that's a kind of basic, the basic thought I had for this. What's the kind of knock-on effect of this is that the more serious, or maybe the inverse of this, is the more serious you are about what you want to do and about how important it is to do it, the less maybe careful about what things make you look you are going to be, naturally, because the priority of actually doing the thing gets way higher than the priority of doing the thing in a way that makes me look nice to other people. But then there's also an aspect of efficacy. It's like, how effective are you at actually performing the task? Because it's all well and good when you are like completely alone and doing something on your own. It's a bit different when you have like a bunch of people around you and those people are looking at what you are doing. Because when you have that, then it actually matters for doing things, like how people perceive you is of relevance. And also it effectively stops being sentimental when it's sentimental for multiple people. You could, maybe that's a way to phrase it. Because if because like it or not, people do act a lot based on what they feel and how they feel about things and what they think is good. And what they consider good is often very dependent on how it's presented to them. It's like, oh, people like being around optimists and don't like being around pessimists, because like pessimists are these like big downers and they make people feel bad, while optimists are, you know, the happy-go-lucky and like talk and energetic, etc. But then if you take a pessimistic approach to life, and by which I mean you look at the what could possibly go wrong in this situation, and that is your main concern, you can actually sell that to people, provided you are nice about it. You can absolutely sell that to people in a way that is going to make them enjoy the experience, because it's not inherent to what you say, it's inherent to how you say it. So like the sentimental part of what, you know, how you come across on the feelings layer is quite important for what you actually end up conveying, or rather what people end up hearing of what you are trying to convey. So I'm wondering if the distinction then is between sentimentality, as in doing things because they make you feel a certain way, and then you do things because it makes other people feel a certain way, and that also has knock-on effects. And then also it makes me wonder, what's with the because at some point it becomes manipulation, where you effectively just you play with the other person's emotions and how the brain functions effectively in order to get what you want, maybe because you are aware that these people are not, like, the person is not going to stop you, or not going to notice they are being used for what you want to use them for. And this is very closely related to, you know, the blissful sentimentality, because in terms of what makes you extremely vulnerable to getting manipulated is if you are overly sentimental. Oh, this guy's not respawning. Oh, there we go. If you are very sentimental about things, then that opens you up a lot more to being manipulated in a multitude of ways, because it turns out that human feelings are not actually very magical. It's not that, not to say like, oh, there's nothing special or nothing important about them, but they are not these like mystical, incredible senses, like an additional sense that you get that always tells you the truth, and it's never wrong, and it's like this beautiful intuition, and you have to trust your heart and follow your inner voice, because it will never lead you astray. It's like, no, not really, actually. Taking that kind of approach is going to open you up to people who understand how human, well, I guess psychology works. And those people are going to know exactly how to elicit your sentimental reaction in order so you do what they want you to do. And this is important insofar as if you're highly sentimental, it also makes it difficult to assess past experiences rationally. True. It's also a good point. Because you end up... Because this is also interesting, because placebo is incredibly strong for people, and very similar notion to placebo. You can tell yourself very different stories about what actually happened to you, and then contextualize it and process it in very different ways. So effectively, from all these interpretations of reality you could have, and from all the different perspectives you can look at reality from, and all the different conclusions you can come to, you're effectively picking one, and you're not even really picking it, but rather you are defaulting to it. Because your emotion tells you kind of one version of the story, depending on whatever circumstances it like seem important, but then there's often a whole host of ways and directions to look at issues from. And so if you become overly sentimental about how you look at things, it becomes you become open to fixating on that one interpretation and then losing what the event or thing was actually like if considered fully, so to speak, as a whole. Things that might have seemed good at the time might be terrible. Also the opposite as well, because you can easily have things that seem terrible at the time but are actually learning experiences, and you can also process difficult and hard and bad experiences in a way that makes them beneficial to you, and that way it doesn't, like, the bad experience doesn't hold you forever, and you don't end up dwelling on it and reminiscing and letting it cause further damage, but rather you can process it in a kind of healthy way. Sentimentality is peak, so peak it extends through blood memories. Return to stone tools and building mud huts with your hands. I mean, it's certainly, yeah, I mean, it's like sentimental. You look at like it's much more sentimental to like technology improvements are very much in this kind of camp, this kind of place, where people have a strong attachment to how things are and how they've done it and the tools they've used and the process, etc. It's like all of that creates sentimental attachment. And so when a new technology comes around and that technology kind of threatens the old way of doing things, which, like, the most recent current trendy example is AI, but it's not like that's the first technology that's kind of interfered with what humans do and how they do it. Oh. And then the problem with that becomes, oh, your sentimental view of the issue will get checked by reality at some point. If the technology is actually good and it actually improves how people do things, then usually, bar extreme like crackdown, and even that probably doesn't last forever, you end up getting checked by reality. Because how do you verify what actually matters? Well, you verify what actually matters by comparing it to reality and implementing it in reality. So if what actually matters about my work to people is that I deliver them a certain product or service that they then use for whatever they need it in their lives, then if there's a way to get what they need that doesn't utilize me, or that is faster and cheaper and better, they are probably going to do it. And then you can only go so far with the sentimentality argument, because if you start then trying to say, oh, like you don't, well, if you do this, it makes me feel less important. It makes me feel like you are not giving me enough importance, or you are not respecting my work enough. You are effectively holding your the person's relationship with you, saying like, oh, I'm going to think lesser of you if you make these choices. I'm going to think lesser of you. Our relationship is going to get damaged. And that works for as long as you can actually, because it's a cost-benefit analysis, like speaking of not being sentimental. At some point, that person thinks, it's like, okay, is like being friends and on the good side of this guy, is it worth actually giving up all the utility I could get from like picking the objectively better option? Or is the relationship with this person actually worth it? Worth it enough for me to give up the benefits of the better technology? And then okay, see ya in a moment. And then you do, because that ultimately, this kind of goes back to why I think it's a luxury belief. If your life is on the line, if you have limited resources that are important, if you're deciding what to do, in what order, how much time and money and effort to devote to certain things, all of these questions become quite real and important. You need to choose somehow. You need to choose something. And then ultimately, I think time is an important kind of limiting factor in all of this, because having limited time, and also, well, like with limited time comes like limited mental energy, limited understanding, like brain processing power, and whatnot. All of that means that on some level, every question or every trade-off you make is in some way existential. It's not literally that you are deciding, like, it's not literally life or death. I don't mean to elevate every choice to like this kind of level, because that would be inaccurate and pointless effectively, but in a way, what you choose to do actually has a lot of importance in the long run. Just also looking at it non-sentimentally. And then, on the other hand, it also doesn't, in that, in the grand scheme of your entire life, in the grand scheme of your entire life, it's not actually that much, not that much difference, actually. Because it's just one thing. But then how you actually accomplish big things is by doing a lot of small things in a row, effectively, for a long time, because you rarely do you have the ability to just do like something very big, and it also in a way that it also fits like in a short time frame. So if you want to make sense of all of that, you... Can I go up here? No. Okay, so you make these decisions non-sentimentally. But then I kind of touched on it, but I want to go further into it, because it turns out that the more people in your environment, in your surroundings, operate on sentimentality, the more of a problem not approaching things sentimentally becomes for those people. You effectively... it becomes a problem if you are... If you are sentimental, like if you are not sentimental, then... Because analyzing things rationally, right? If you analyze things rationally, you are not sentimental about them, it might be rational to be more sentimental about certain things, or at least to appear sentimental for the people that expect that of you. So that effectively means you become a like an actor. You play the role of being sentimental in a situation that demands it, because it is important for other people to see that you have the sentiment, because the sentiment indicates something about you. And so then you don't really have another way of making that, communicating that to people. You kind of have to, like, if there's something that, I don't know, if you want to show that you cared about a person, then even if you don't feel the sentiment, you are going to have, it's like, obviously, if you like a person, usually you are going to have some kind of emotional attachment, but then let's assume for the argument that you don't. You still, if you want to express to other people that you like that person, are you going to do it via, you know, dry, oh yes, Mark was my best friend and I loved him very much. It's so sad what happened to him. It's like, no. Kind of regardless of what you actually feel at the moment, that's not the appropriate way to communicate what you want to communicate. You kind of have to, even if you don't feel it at the moment, or I don't know, you're busy with something else, if you want to convey this, you can't, you don't want to reduce the sentiment of the message, because it's proper. It's proper to express it that way, to show that there's more to it than just logical, cold, rational calculation. Okay, so going back to the idea of blissful sentimentality, the place where sentimentality would cross from being appropriate to being effectively offloading responsibility would be where you start using it as an explanation for the decisions and the calls you make. If you make the decision to act a certain way, to say certain things, to, I don't know, do certain things, then, I mean, you could use the rationale that, oh, I did that because I loved him very much. It was very important to me, and so I was very sentimental, and I felt bad, and thus I did that. It's like, okay, this is a fine explanation, depending on what you actually do about it. Because if you can say this while acknowledging, like, yes, I did something wrong, I apologize, this is like an explanation for why this happened, despite me not wanting to do it. And so, you know, I'll try and get this better in the future. I'll try not to make the mistake. Or you can use it as like, no, it doesn't, like, you have to excuse me because I was sentimental at the moment. I couldn't, that's what I felt. I couldn't have acted any other way. It's like, no. Because even if you do get sentimental, you still have responsibility for how you act. No matter how sentimental you get about things. But then that has a knock-on effect, right? Because you are responsible for what you do, no matter how sentimental you get, then you also kind of don't want to be sentimental. Like, it becomes somewhat detrimental to be sentimental. I need to probably stop repeating that word before it loses all meaning. But you can't lean into that. Because if you lean into that, you still get all the responsibility, but then it negatively impacts your decisions. Right? You get the drawback of getting your decisions impacted, but then you don't get the upside of making better decisions because you are calculating and not just letting your feelings dictate how you act. But then, well, again, you get a trade-off from that. I'm like, of course, I'm not the first guy to ever think about this, so like, don't take this too seriously. Is the like classic kind of choice where you question, what do I do the thing that the person's going to hate me for, but it's better for them, or do I do the thing they want me to do, but that is not actually good for them, but they want it, right? So you kind of choose these two things, and usually it's not that black and white, because you can do different things, go about them in different ways, etc. It's like the best arrangement, if you can get it, is if you have people who can understand that you are not being sentimental about the decisions, and then you also very much can kind of disclaimer style handle sentimentality. It's okay, you kind of, because this is fairly normal in communication. If you want to be clear about what you mean and what you do not mean, you explicitly mention, it's like, okay, listen, I know this might sound harsh, I know this might be rough to hear, I realize, like, this is an extreme opinion or whatever. You kind of acknowledge, you acknowledge the sentimental side of the issue, because doing so lets the other person know, it's like, that you actually are thinking about it, and you also care about that, and you don't only care about getting what you want. So you can do, so in terms of communication, you can do a lot to make sure, to mitigate this problem effectively. of being sentimental. I don't know if there's like a good, satisfying, full answer to how sentimental you should be, or to what degree, etc. In what situations. I think it is something worth thinking about. Like, yeah, you are going to affect people. Okay, this is another thing. You're going to affect people, kind of no matter which option you choose. It's once again coming back to manipulation. It's like anything you say to someone, like if you wanted to be sort of entirely and fully and maximally clear about never manipulating anyone, you would kind of have to give up on influence altogether. So because basically anytime you posit, so for example, making good arguments is in a way forcing someone to do something. You could see that as a kind of manipulation, and some people genuinely do see that. It's like, okay, you've been very convincing about this, and it's making me feel like I have no choice. I must do what you want me to do, even though I don't really want to. But then that causes problems if you follow that through to the full conclusion. That causes a lot of problems, because basically anytime you talk to people, you are going to have some kind of influence on them. You can't really get away from that. A person hears what you say, has a certain reaction to it. Depending on them, they might interpret it differently, or it might call them to different actions. Like, all sorts of stuff might happen. And if you want to communicate, and if you want to get things done, and if you want to argue with people and convince them, kind of, you have to accept this. There's basically no way around it. There's no way to both allow the ability to convince people and influence them, and also make sure that you never kind of influence somebody's free will. It's like, no, and that's not even, I don't think that's even very desirable. Basically no. If you so since that's kind of what happens when you just talk to people, and it just kind of spontaneously happens that you have an effect on them, then on your end you can avoid manipulation by basically not employing any of the techniques that that influence a person's emotion instead of influencing a person's will. However, the problem is this is not always possible to do with people who are, for example, sentimental. If somebody is very sentimental and lets their feelings guide them, and then you give off bad vibes, they are not going to listen to you. And then it might just be that you, well, not being sentimental and being rational might be the source of the bad vibes, and then that person has effectively locked you into a question of which would you choose. Are you going to choose to have some influence and risk it being effectively manipulation, or are you going to are you going to kind of play the game? To just abandon the whole cause? It's like, well, I can't do anything about this because it could be considered manipulation if I have influence over this person. But then the problem is, it's like, oh well, no, I didn't manipulate you because you could have been smarter and not gotten manipulated. It's at a certain point you have to allow the other person to... You have to respect the person's free will. You can do this, right? You are responsible for yourself, you're an adult. You are, able to control what you see, what you listen to, and how you refer to things. And so it is important for you to exercise that, because if you don't, we effectively cannot communicate. If I try and take this responsibility for you, I now have to, take into account things I basically can't know. I cannot know what specifically... we can have certain rules, right? And this is something that culture basically defines, and it's very important for the culture to define. It's like what is acceptable, what is outside of social norms, what do certain behaviors mean, what's good and bad. You could call it, it's like, oh, whoa, that's pretty arbitrary, right? Shouldn't we have some kind of framework that establishes what is good and what is bad, and not universally? Not really. Because it is to an extent arbitrary, just like different languages, for example, right? You have different languages, which means the same concepts are expressed differently in different languages. And so you can take any kind of word that is used for a concept in any language and say, well, isn't this just completely arbitrary? Couldn't we just call this a blorp? And if everybody agreed, the concept would be blorp, right? We'd give it a different name. So it's like arbitrary. We made it up. And the thing is, it's true. We did. But because people have already made it, it's already been set up that way, it's already been established that there's a word for that concept, it is now important to kind of keep in line with that, because there's other things depending on the understanding. So you need to not just think that you need a way. So language and culture as a kind of extension of language is particularly important for this, because if there's a way to express something in a culture, then you kind of have to adhere to it, or it's going to come across very differently to the people that are in the culture. Now, of course, there's subcultures, there's counterculture, there's all sorts of stuff that is kind of an exception, or maybe uses that mechanism for different purposes, but it doesn't... A lot of the time, for example, subcultures or counterculture is in reference to the base understanding, and it kind of requires the base understanding because it's defined by an opposition to that understanding. If you had no culture, you then also don't really have a counterculture. Or maybe you have a bunch of countercultures that are all but they are not counterculture then, right? And then the people who are hipsters or alternative people and all that jazz, it loses a lot of its appeal. Because the appeal, right? The appeal is in it being counter. So if it stops being a counter, then it stops being appealing. Whoops. Didn't do it. It stops being appealing when it's not a counterculture. So yeah, it's important to establish what's acceptable and what isn't, and what is a kind of underhanded way of communication. What's perfectly acceptable, because that lets people actually figure out a border between the two concepts. You kind of need to establish that border. It doesn't naturally, I don't think it exists naturally, because it's dependent on not just because it's communication, and if it's communication, then it's not just dependent on one thing or one side. It's dependent on two people. It's dependent on... It's like, if you want to exchange information, then it depends on what I say, but it also depends on what you hear when I say it. And so both ends are important, and because there's a lot of communication between a lot of people, it becomes effectively a societal issue, and its importance is even higher for there to be rules and for there to be a basis to work from. Because even if you end up breaking the rules because that's better for communication, you still do that in reference to the rules, and you also have something to fall back on for everything else that isn't an exception. So it's like exceptions don't invalidate rules. Like usually you're going to find exceptions to rules, but there's a reason why there's a saying like the exception proves the rule. It's because they are both part of an understanding of the issue. And I think I'll be going to bed, cause I can feel myself falling asleep, and I think, I don't know how the last I feel the last however long was a lot of etc. But alas, hopefully it wasn't too bad. I don't know. Maybe I'll listen to it back and it's like, why did you do this stream at 10 PM? This is clearly no sense and doesn't connect together, and you are clearly falling asleep as you are speaking. That's alright. Just a little bit of thinking before bed. It's also okay. I don't really have a good conclusion on the topic. Maybe just that being sentimental is so obviously don't throw all sentiment in the trash, but also over-reliance on sentimentality is something you kind of have to pay to afford. It's not free, it has consequences. Especially for the people that carry the slack where you allow yourself to be sentimental. Alright, I think that's gonna be it. I need to crash into bed at a high velocity in order to go to sleep. So thank you for listening, and good night. I'll stop streaming, hopefully.